Hi, welcome everyone. Today, I'm going to give you a little tour of Pinterest Analytics so that you know what to look for and how to use the information you'll find here. Please remember that in order to access analytics, you do have to have a business account on Pinterest. And in order to unlock this third box, which is activity from your website, you need to have your Pinterest account and Pinterest account verified with your website. So that does involve putting a little line of code on your website, and the demo for that is in the Ready Your Website bonus. All right, so let's get started. Welcome to Pinterest Analytics. What you will see is that you can look at your profile. In this section here, that's where you're going to find your top pins and your top boards. You can deep dive into your audience. This is where you're going to find the demographic information about your followers, what they're interested in, and where you can look into who your top fans are. Now, activity from your website is the section where you can find out how many people, how much brand exposure pins that link to your website are getting, how many people are clicking over to your website, and who the influencers are in your industry on Pinterest. So let's start by looking over at your Pinterest profile. In all of these sections, you're going to get this nice graph up front, and please know that you can always adjust the dates in these graphs. You can go by their default 7, 14, or 30 days view, or you can do what I do, which is expand it out to a custom period of time. I often like to look at the past 90 days because I feel like it gives me a better idea of how the trend is going versus looking at the past 30 days, which is kind of more short term. So in this case, you just click on the first day of the custom time frame you want to look at and click on the last day. And then you'll see it went for, this is a nice 3-month span that I can look at. All right, so the first section here, average daily impressions. This tells you how many views your pins are getting and how many times they're appearing in the news feed. So it might be as a search result, or it might be in the news feed of one of your followers. If you'll notice here that there is a big difference between the average daily viewers and average daily impressions. The difference here is this. If you pin something and an hour later, somebody who follows you goes and visits Pinterest, your pin might show up on their newsfeed, but much further towards the bottom. That would be a pin impression. And only when that pinner scrolls far enough down that your pin actually shows on your screen, do they consider that person a viewer. So the average daily viewers is a better criteria for brand exposure than average daily impressions. Just below this section, you can look at your top performing pins. And what you'll see is how many, you can always hit the show more button. This will show you your top 50, but I do like to look at the top 5. And my goal is to get all of my top 5 pins to be getting on average 10,000 impressions per month. It feels like a really doable goal. And that is mostly by how many times I'm repinning them or by the search keywords that I'm trying to get them to show up for. Below your top pins, you're going to see your top 5 boards with top pin impressions. So if you see one of the boards is by somebody else that isn't you, that's usually a group board. That's a good indicator to tell you maybe what's your most important group board that you should be pinning to, because it's the board that's giving you the most brand exposure. And then what you'll see in the other boards that you own, these are basically your most popular boards. You want to stay active on these, and it's a good idea to pull up the really relevant ones to the top of your profile because these are boards that people are likely to follow. Okay, now we can look at repins, clicks, and all time. So in this section, we're going to see on average how many repins are we getting every day and how many people are responsible for those repins. So if you notice, I have 32 people on average giving me 36 repins every day. So that tells me a couple of them are repinning more than one of my pins. Down here, I get to see the most repin pins from the last 30 days. So this is basically your most viral content. This is content that should be repinned onto group boards because it's likely then to get repinned again onto other people's boards and give you a few waves of brand exposure on Pinterest. Further down, we see our top boards with repins. If you have a really important blog post or a new product that you're announcing, these are the top boards that you want to make sure you're pinning that information to, because these boards are likely to get repins. The pins that you add to them are likely to get repinned. And again, you can always hit the show more button if you want to dive a little deeper into seeing the full list of top boards. So now we're going to go and check out the top clicks section of Your Pinterest profile. Here we're seeing how many people are clicking to our website from Pinterest. And again, you can change the time frame if you'd like. So you can see right here, on average, I'm getting 40 daily visitors from my pins, which is really good. And on average, they're clicking 46 times. So if they're not clicking to my website, they might be clicking to my profile, or they might be clicking to my board. Again, we're seeing our most clicked pins. So there's something about these pins that engages your audience to take action. Look at them, check out the pin descriptions that are in them, see if they have maybe a call to action, see what type of language they're using. These are good examples for how to write pin descriptions that get people to take action. And before I go any further, I do want to talk about what this pin type column means. If you see the letter R in your pin type column, this is a rich pin. In order for a pin to be a rich pin, the website that pin links to must have a little line of code on it. And in the Ready Your Website bonus lesson, I talk about how to get rich pins for your website on WordPress. If your pin type has a P next to it, this indicates that it's a promoted pin and you might have used that pin as an ad recently. Further down, we get our top boards with the most clicked pins. So just like in the repin section, these are really good boards to pin your important pieces of content to, whether it be new products, great blog posts, customer testimonials, frequently asked questions. When you pin something to these boards, it's likely that it will get clicked on. These are your really engaging, these boards all have really engaging followers. The last section for your Pinterest profile talks about your overall presence. So since the beginning of time that you opened your profile, what have been your most shared pins? And which of your pins ranked highest in search? And lastly, which pins are your power pins that not only have a high mix of repins and clicks, but they also are getting you a lot of exposure? What I like to do with this entire section is, if I'm pressed for time and I'm not sure what to pin on Pinterest, I just come into my Pinterest profile section of my analytics, I go to the all-time link, and I pick out a few pins from each of these top sections and repin them onto different boards, because these are really well-performing pins, and that's going to help give you great content that your audience finds really engaging. Another takeaway from this section of Pinterest Analytics is here in the Best in Search section. Know that at any time with any of these pins you see, you can always click on the title of the pin and open it to actually see what the pin looks like. So from this pin came from my Best in Search section. So I would scroll down and I would take a look at what the description is. So in this description reads, personal branding infographic, small business strategy for marketing yourself and your services. So it's likely that either personal branding or small business strategy or strategy for marketing, any of these could be keywords for which this pin is showing up. And I might want to consider creating new boards with those keywords and finding more pins that match that topic so I can show up in search more often. Okay, so let's just do a quick overview of what we learned in the Your Pinterest Profile section before we move on to Your Audience. Under impressions, we found our top pins by impressions and top boards by impressions. We also got to take a peek at our average daily viewers, so the average amount of times our content is being seen every day. The top repins and top click sections, these sections indicated our best performing pins, our most viral content. In the click section, it talks about our most engaging content, the content that gets people to take action. Lastly, in the all time section, we found a resource for our best performing pins that we can quickly repin on other boards on days when we're not quite sure what to pin. And we also found a key for getting information about what keywords we're having good luck showing up in search for. Okay, let's take a look at the Your Audience section. The Your Audience section focuses on the demographics, interests, and fans that follow your profile. What you'll see here in the demographics information is, on average, how many people are you engaging? How many people are interacting with your pins? And again, now here we can see the average monthly viewers for our pins. So remember, Your Pinterest Profile showed us our average daily viewers, and Audience shows us our average monthly viewers. Just below this section, we get a lot of demographic information about our followers. We can know their gender, their language, and their geographic region. Next is the interest section. This can give you an idea of common interests that your followers share. These interests would make great board topics if you can keep it relevant to your product, business, or service. Scrolling down, we see our pinners with lots of our pins. So these are our most active pinners and which board they put a lot of our content onto. From this section is so powerful. You can get a lot from this section. From this section, you can get ideas for board names. So marketing group board, blogging resources, content marketing. These might make really good board names. You can also meet your top fans, your top supporters. So when I say meet your top supporters, let's look at Liv as an example. Remember, you can always click on each one of these categories to open the board or the pin in a new tab. So here we're seeing Liv's board full of blogging resources. We can find out how many followers she has. We can follow her board to kind of get an idea of what she's into. And we can click on her name here to see what the rest of her profile looks like. We can find out what Liv's style is. We can find out what topics she is looking for information about. And we can get an idea for how many followers she has and how much influence she might give to our pins. Okay, so I'm going to exit out of here. So I do recommend at least once a quarter going in and checking out these top boards and seeing what your customers are really looking for, what information they're pinning about, and which of your pins they added to each of their boards. All right, the last section here under your audience talks about other businesses that your followers like to interact with. So these would be really good places for you to find content that you can pin, and you can feel really confident knowing that this is content that your fans are going to like because it's being pulled out here in your analytics section and highlighted as businesses your audience engages with. All right, so to overview our audience section, we found out demographic information about our profile, or about our followers. We found out the information about how many people are interacting with our pins every month. We found what other interests our audience has, our top fans, the people who are really engaging and interacting with our content, and what boards they're putting our content on. And lastly, businesses that our audience likes to engage with. By the way, just as a side note, these would be great places for you to guest post if you happen to blog and you can be a guest blogger on any of these places. It would be really influential to your audience. Okay, now we're going to move on to activity from your website. So as you can see, my website is mmmsocialmedia.com. So that's why this says activity from mmmsocialmedia.com. On your analytics, it'll say activity from whatever your website is. This section here is locked until you verify your website with Pinterest. And I talk about how to do that in the optimizing your profile lesson. All right. What we see here in our main graph, again, are the average daily views that pins that link back to our website get. So on average, pins that link to my website are getting about 2,800 viewers every day. This is a really good performance indicator for brand exposure. If we scroll down, we're going to see the pins. Just so you know, all the pins in this section, all of them will link back to your website. So this entire section gives you insight into how is your content doing. Here, it's this section here, top pin impressions from the last 30 days is telling me how many times each individual pin is being shown to somebody. And again, if you have the rich pin code embedded on your website, then all of the pins should have the R next to them. And below here, we're finding the top boards from the last 30 days ranked by the number of impressions each pin gets. Now, in more layman's terms, and what you can use this section for, is to find out the influencers in your industry. What I mean by this is these are boards that somebody has pinned your content to, and when they did, it was seen by a lot of people. So if I click through to this competitive intelligence board by Sandy, we're going to see that this is a board that has a lot of followers. It has, 5,400 followers. And when she pinned my content, views. So in order to focus my energy, I might try to connect with Sandy, meaning comment on her pins, send her pins she might like, repin her content, anything to keep me top of mind for her so that she's more likely to repin my content later. Okay, so now we can go check out our top performing, top shared boards and pins. So this section here is telling you on average how many people are repinning content from your website every day. So this is basically saying my content is getting shared 27 by 27 different people every day. And down here under the most repinned pins last 30 days, this is telling me in the past 30 days, what's my most trending or best performing content. So I'm very thankful that my #1 most shared pin from the past 30 days is actually an opt-in pin. It's a pin that links back to a page of my website inviting people to give me their email address in exchange for some free printables. And as you can see, the reason that this is my top repin pin is because it has over 2,600 repins on it. And it is on a group board, so this should just reinforce to you the importance of getting your content out on a group board. It really can help it take off, and it can help get you a lot of exposure. All right, back in Pinterest Analytics under activity from our website and repins. Here what we're finding are boards with the most repinned pins from the past 30 days. And it shouldn't surprise you to find the same boards here that you saw under impressions. These are definitely boards that you want to put really important content on. Especially if it links back to your website. These seem to be kind of the most relevant topics to what you might be blogging about. Okay, in the click section, we can find how many people visit our website from Pinterest. So I was getting on average, 27 repins a day? And then on average, 21 people are clicking through and visiting my website from Pinterest during this past 2 weeks, it looks like. Now, the most clicked pins, so these are pins that are really good at getting people off of Pinterest and onto my website. And one of the things I want to point out is that this pin here, 7 Amazing Pinterest Stats, this was a promoted pin. And for promoted pins, you only pay when they click to your website. And I only spent about $12 to get, over 100 people to my website to check out this article. So that was a really good return. And I found that a good amount of people were following through and actually joining my email list and looking at multiple blog posts. So we'll talk about promoted pins in lesson 3 of Pinterest Pro. When we scroll down and we see boards with the most clicked pins, so this will tell you people who have a lot of engagers. Many of you guys know Peg Fitzpatrick, and if you don't know Peg yet, she's a fantastic social media marketer, and she has pinned something that links back to my website on her Pinterest Tips for Success board. Now, this board has over 9,000 followers, and Peg has a very engaging audience. So there's the pin right there. This is my master list of Pinterest tricks that have been added to this board. This is a great guy, Manly Pinterest Tips. Just see who pinned it, and it already has 7 repins, and it's new to this board. So I want to encourage you to deep dive like this into what boards have the most clicked pins, because this will tell you who are your influencers. I know now that Jeff and Peg are really important people in terms of me introducing my content to them and them recommending it to their followers. That works really well to get people to visit my website. Ways to engage or get attention from those people. The best way you can do it is to repin a lot of their pins and retweet a lot of their tweets and reply to their posts. Leave comments on their posts that are nice and supportive and engaging. Really treat them as if they're somebody you want to be friends with. Okay, so now we're going to talk about these last three sections: original pins, all time, and the pin it button. So original pins are when people are hitting either their pin it extension, which you can see I have up here, from when they're visiting my website, or they're hitting the little pin it button that appears when they're hovering over an image on my website. So on average, only one person every day is actually hitting that button. It looks like, you know, maybe yesterday I had 4 people hit buttons like that on my website. And this section here, the newest pins created from your website, shows you what's being added or pinned from your website recently. If you want to look at this type of content easier, I suggest you go to Pinterest and just go to pinterest.com/source/ and then type in your website. So my website is socialmedia.com, mmmsocialmedia.com. And when I do that search, it'll instantly show me all the pins that are being repinned from my website. And I'll teach you this more in the Fast Track Your Success section, but it's really important to acknowledge these pins with a heart. So that's a good thing to do regularly. Okay, now back on the activity from our website, let's look at all time. So these are kind of the power pins, the most repinned pins, the best performing in search. I mean, really, like looking at this section, there's a big red flag for me that something about successful social media marketing is likely a great keyword for me, which is perfect. That's my #1 keyword that I'm going after. And so what I did here is I clicked on the pin, and now I scroll down to the description. And so here we can see social media marketing, social marketing strategy, sales funnel, profitable business growth. All of those are great keywords for me to be showing up for. And back in Pinterest Analytics, those are pins that are ranking high in search. So it's just really, really reinforcing that this pin all right, so this last section, pin it button, I feel like, and I've heard this from other pros, that potentially this section isn't working properly because, like, for example, there's a fantastic Pinterest expert named Anna Bennett who also showed her pin it button section, and she wasn't getting a lot of impressions or clicks, even though we did just see under original pins that I was getting clicks. So this section is good to know, but might not also be showing you relevant information yet. All right, so to review what we learned in this section, activity from our website, we learned which pins are giving us the most brand exposure. We learned which pins that link back to our website are being shared most often in the repin section. We learned which of pins that link back to our website are the most engaging or interactive. And we learned how to look up our most influential pinners, so people who we really want to pin more of our stuff. We also looked at new pins that are being pinned from our site every day, and our overall best performing pins, so that we know what content on our website is really attracting the most attention for our business. All right, so overall, that is Pinterest Analytics in a nutshell. What you do with this information is study it, learn it, definitely deep dive into why a pin is doing really well, try to dissect if there's keywords or if the pinner's influential, those factors will help you become a better Pinterest user and make Pinterest your #1 source of website traffic. All right, thanks everyone, and reach out to me if you have follow-up questions.